You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Black Diamond Club, Pure Chiro Notes, MoveWell University, the Chiro Dex app, and Alok Trivedi. Let's hustle.
Alright guys, welcome to today's episode of Chiro Hustle. I am your co-host Luke Millette, and here's Jim Chester to tell you all about today's guest.
So today we had the honor of interviewing Dr. Tom Potisk, and what he talked about is the saving of the Gonstead Clinic in Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. And for more information on that, just stay with us on this episode of Chiro Hustle.
So why don't you tell us your chiropractic story and what influenced you to become a doctor in the first place?
Oh, I love telling stories, and the story about how I got started as a chiropractor is a good one of my favorites. I was actually a pre-med student here in Wisconsin, and I was kind of just doing it because my friends were doing it. I really didn't know what field I wanted to study, so I thought I'd follow along with what they're doing, and I was never real happy with it. I felt very uncomfortable. I had the grades, I could get into medical school, but one day I was sitting at my kitchen table studying organic chemistry, big thick book with a lot of complicated formulas in there, not enjoying that, preparing for a test, and in the living room next to the kitchen, the TV was on, and that particular day it was on kind of loud for some reason, and all of a sudden this show comes on called 60 Minutes. Remember that ticking clock?
Oh yeah.
Yep.
And Morley Safer, the host, says, "Are you tired of your doctor? Are you sick and tired of being sick and tired? Well, there's a new doctor on the block, and these are chiropractors, and they're sweeping the country, and that's what we're going to talk about on our show today." So that got my attention. I closed that big organic chemistry book and I went into the living room and I listened to that program. That was in 1980. And I listened to that program, and by the time that program was over in about 20 minutes, the expose on chiropractic, I knew I wanted to be a chiropractor right then. And the odd thing was, it was a very negative show towards chiropractic. They interviewed a lot of medical doctors who said, don't go, they hurt people. But they also interviewed patients that had dramatic results, and they explained the chiropractic principle quite clearly, which is what hooked me. So the very next day, I went back to college. I commuted, and I went straight to the library, and I looked up chiropractic. And there were 4 books on the shelf. 3 of them were anti-chiropractic books. But I read up on it, and I found a chiropractor that I could visit in my community, and I just got more and more into it. And from that time on, when I listened to that program, I just knew that was for me. And I had never heard of chiropractic before that. None of my family ever went. But that principle and hearing those people tell those dramatic stories about chiropractic is what got me. And it still excites me to this day, I think, more than ever.
And, you know, I think that the dogma is still spot on with negative brand equity for the profession. And I know that you were saying off of interview that you were in practice for 24 years. What is the most challenge right now to get that brand equity and to get the education out there for people to know that chiropractic doesn't hurt people and it keeps people healthy?
Well, I think the true, valid, and principled story of chiropractic and what it is something most people are looking for. And I think a lot of people still haven't heard it in a simplistic way. And I think using all the new technologies now are just wonderful for getting the message out. And that's what we have to do, is just keep repeating it and introducing it in a clever and entertaining way. Social media, of course, videos, Instagram and Facebook, that's all just wonderful, and it's reaching more people, I think, than ever before. And I'm more optimistic than I've ever been about chiropractic.
So do you have any mantras or quotes that help you with your momentum as a doctor at all? Like, do you have any quotes that stick out in your mind that you follow every day?
I've always loved this mantra, and I think it's something that I have focused on for as long as I can remember, and it's this: man plants, God grants. man plants, God grants. And it reflects my belief a lot that God's ultimately in control of everything, but it's up to us to take action. So we have to keep planting the seeds in chiropractic, and we have to keep improving ourselves in chiropractic and taking on new projects to reach more people and introduce it and apply it to the public. But sometimes it doesn't work out the way we want it to, or at least not right away. And that's because it's all up to God. And I think God's got a plan. I think everything that we've seen, both the awful dark days of chiropractic and all the struggles, that's all there for a reason. And I don't think we should worry too much about trying to figure it out. I think we should just keep moving forward because we've got a wonderful thing here that the public is looking for.
And you hit the nail right on the head there, Dr. Tom, as you said something is, with the idea of, prayer or religion in the background always. I had a conversation with a friend of mine earlier today, and it doesn't matter how hard we pray unless we put things into action. And we can be the most devoted spiritual person in the world, but if we don't put what we feel as our action into momentum, then we're really not making much of a progress other than spiritually being sound.
Yeah, it's so true. We've all got different gifts, and we all should spend time, contemplating what those are and then putting them into action. People have asked me about my time now at the world-renowned Gonstead Clinic in Mount Horeb, Wisconsin. I'm volunteering there as the director, the president of the nonprofit foundation, which now owns it, and we're working to restore it and protect it, preserve it. And people ask me, Tom, what are you doing over there? Why are you spending your time? That's a nonprofit thing. There's no money in it for you. Well, my gifts have been in management and administration and promoting. I've also got some talents in building management, basic repairs, electrical, plumbing. And that's been a perfect spot for me to help with that project there, restoring and preserving that Gonstead Clinic. And boy, we're making wonderful progress, and all I'm really doing is just using my God-given talents. Everybody's got different ones, and it seems to be a good fit for me. So I'm having a lot of fun with that. It's a blast.
So tell us a little bit more about why you got involved with the Gonstead Clinic and a little bit about the history behind the Gonstead Clinic and what it means for you to be a part of that non-for-profit.
Boy, there's lots of good stories there also. When I was in chiropractic school at Palmer from 1981 to 1985, I started hearing about a chiropractor that was just exceptional. And if you don't know about Dr. Gonstead, he was the chiropractor if there ever was one. DD is known as the founder, and BJ is known as the developer. And the son, Dave Palmer, is known as the educator. He kind of cleaned up the educational aspect of it. But Gonstead, he pulled it all together. He was the chiropractor, unmatched even in this day. So I started hearing about this guy and looking into it. And the more I looked into it, the more I said, well, there's a guy that really did it in spite of all odds. And he left a method behind that's easy to learn and I wouldn't say easy to apply, but it's doable. There's a lot of art and skill there. And he left behind the clinic, and they teach seminars there, so I started going to that, and I got involved with an intern program in Bluegrass, Iowa, Troxel intern program, and that was probably the best investment I ever made in my time and efforts. I learned more there, I think, than I did in chiropractic school in the year that I spent as an intern. And that's still going on, by the way, the Troxel intern program, and I advise all students to look into that. I think now it's north of Davenport, about a half an hour in a small community, LeClaire, I think, Iowa. And I went on to be a Gonstead practitioner. I used that quite exclusively in my practice for 24 years. I had all the equipment and continued to go to seminars. And then an event came up which was called the 50th anniversary of the Gonstead Clinic. That was about 2 years ago. The Gonstead Clinic was 50 years old. And I went to that event and I sat there and I listened to person after person extolling the benefits that they got from seeing Dr. Gonstead, former patients, former staff members, former associates that worked there with Gonstead. And I just knew sitting there, but boy, I got to get involved with this more. I have to help them preserve this place because it's such a symbol. It's such a landmark in chiropractic, and it's a rare one. A lot of them have been torn down, like Spears Chiropractic Hospital. And this Gonstead Clinic is there, and it can serve as a shining example of ultra success that one chiropractor had, even practicing during some of the darkest decades of chiropractic. He graduated in 1923, and he passed away in 1978. And during those decades, the AMA was at their peak of attack on the chiropractic profession. They had their well-organized plan, a real conspiracy to contain, discredit, and ultimately eliminate the chiropractic profession. But Gonstead was completely oblivious to all that, and he just carried on and just had that amazing practice there, seeing probably more patients than anybody ever has. He made plenty of money, and there's evidence to show that by his house, which still exists, and we take people on tours of that. He had airplanes. He had diamond rings that were 4 and 5 carats that are still existing. Just an amazing story there, and it intrigues me to this day, and I'm so happy to be proud to be preserving that for future chiropractors and for future generations.
And I understand that restoring the Gonstead Clinic is probably something that has some, tugs at your heartstrings, but why is it so important? And just before you get into answering that, I want to just give like a semblance of like location. Dr. Gonstead had a hotel attached to his clinic so people could come and stay there. He had an airstrip so people could fly in and land there. So just me saying that, why is it so important for you to be a part of the restoration of this?
Tugging at your heartstrings, that's a good line. That has happened to me 4 times in my life. The first time was learning about Jesus. The second time was when I learned about chiropractic. The third time was when I met my wife, and I'm still happily married to this day, wonderful woman. And the fourth time was sitting at that seminar, the 50th anniversary of chiropractic, and it's a strange feeling, isn't it? If you've ever had that, for me, it feels like somebody's reaching inside and just kind of squeezing on my heart. And whenever I've had that feeling, I just know that this is something that I have to be involved with. I have to participate in it. I have to help it. I have to learn more about it. And I still feel that just sitting here, just talking about it, that is so important for the chiropractic profession. We just had a group of 30 Japanese chiropractors come to tour the Gonstead Clinic, and boy, were they thrilled. We presented a program to them. In fact, I have a new program that I present now. It's called The Secrets of Gonstead's Success. And we gave them a tour through the clinic. We showed them Gonstead's Elvis Cadillac limousine, which is still in the garage. We took them to Gonstead's house, and we had the opportunity to go inside because I have connections with the owner. And we even took them to Gonstead's tombstone. And do you know what it says on Gonstead's tombstone?
I would love to know.
Engraved on his tombstone, it says, "Find the subluxation, fix it, and leave it alone."
Boy, that's so powerful.
That is, and that was one of his mantras that he would repeat oftentimes to chiropractors. And another favorite thing he loved to say was, "Use boys," that was in his Norwegian accent, which I can't imitate, but he would say, "Use boys are adjusting in too many places and too hard." And that was pretty much the focus of his teaching, is to look and find the primary subluxation and then put them on the Gonstead equipment, which is designed partly by him because of his mechanical background, so that you have to use less force, so it's more comfortable for the patient, gets faster and longer lasting results. And that's why people came from all over the world to see him and to get his care, and they didn't hesitate to wait for hours in his waiting room. One of the speakers at that 50th anniversary was a lady that worked for him in 1954, and she said that they would commonly see 300 to 350 patients a day. He worked 16 to 18-hour days. People would wait for hours to see this guy, and that's a man that I want to learn from, and that's a chiropractor that I want other chiropractors to learn from.
Yeah, it sounds like he had extreme vision with what he was doing, and it sounds like your initiatives to help restore the clinic back to where it was at its pinnacle. It's something that is easy to get behind because of your belief in what he did for the profession. Why did Gonstead become such an innovator? Can you share us a little bit about that?
I had the opportunity to visit his wife when she was still alive. She outlived him by quite a few years, I think 10 or 15 years. So I called her up one time when I was in Mount Horeb taking a seminar. Her name is in the phone book, and she was just the nicest lady. She says, "You come to my house right now. I want to tell you some stories." So my buddy and I, we went over there, and she was so gracious and so welcoming. Her house was packed with junk because she was a hoarder. And you had to go down this little narrow hallway past all these boxes full of newspapers and magazines and other things she collected. And we got into her living room, and I swear to you, the only thing to sit on was a set of Gonstead adjusting equipment. He sat on the cervical chair, and my buddy and I sat on the pelvic bench, and we had a discussion. And we asked her, why was Gonstead so successful? And she said, he knew how to put two and two together better than anybody else. He could look at things in a simplistic way and come up with a simplistic explanation for making things work. And he applied that to the spine. He was a very innovative man with designing this equipment. He designed an X-ray, a new X-ray system to take full spine X-rays. He worked on the meter that Gonstead practitioners use, usually called a nervoscope, and he got the methods about how to hold that properly and run it properly. That's a perfect example. Some chiropractors will say, well, I've tried that meter and it doesn't work. So I start asking questions and I find out, well, they're not holding it properly. There's a certain way you got to hold it. There's a certain way you have to glide it. And there's a certain way you have to look at that needle that's moving on that meter. So there's so many details to it. You know, people really need to go to seminars and spend time and learn that. And even if a person doesn't want to use complete Gonstead exclusively, they can still learn things from the palpation and from the X-ray analysis and from that meter that they can apply to their practice. So besides being very clever and simplistic, you know, he seems so fearless. As I study him more and more and listen to people, he never hesitated to take the toughest of cases, not whatsoever, even paralyzed people and people in wheelchairs. And he would never say to anybody, let's try a couple adjustments and see how it goes. Or, I'm not sure if this is going to help you, but let's try it. Oh no, he just got right to work, finding that subluxation and adjusting it as specifically as he can. And then once he saw the changes, then he left it alone. And he didn't follow up with therapies or exercises, maybe a little bit, but his focus was just on specifically finding and adjusting that subluxation, the primary one specifically. And that's why people came. The results were just incredible with that alone.
Wow, that's beautiful. It's really empowering for me to hear this message in the story. And I'm going to pass the next question over to Luke. I know he wants to ask you something about, the whole Gonstead movement that you're doing. So, Luke, lead in.
So, what do you think we would be able to accomplish if more people knew about your cause?
Boy, if more people get involved with that Gonstead clinic and we preserve it and more people learn the Gonstead method, there's going to be better results for patients. And that's probably the best thing any chiropractor can do. You know, in my lecture that I give called The Secrets of Gonstead Success, I talk about the many characteristics that he had, but summing it all up, his secret was exceptional patient care. Exceptional patient care, and that's something all chiropractors can focus on, and we all need to get better at for the benefit of our patients, and referrals will come. And I'm all in favor of marketing. I did a lot of it, probably more than most chiropractors did. I just did about every marketing method you could use in my practice, and it was very, very helpful. And I'm still in favor of chiropractors doing that. But if you can give exceptional patient care together with your marketing, boy, you're really going to have something.
Yeah, and I know that you've mentioned in here a lot about Clarence Gonstead and what he's done for the chiropractic profession. And I know that you have a huge semblance of the history of chiropractic. And now I want to future pace you a little bit. And what's possible? What's going to happen with the chiropractic profession in the next, say, 10 to 20 years? Where do you see it going?
Boy, I follow a lot of things in the news and on Facebook, and I look at all these articles, and I see the shifting of the social consciousness to more of a natural, organic, holistic type of a living and a lifestyle and healthcare. And boy, chiropractic just fits in there perfect, doesn't it? Probably better than anything else, with our mantra or our main principle being that health comes from within, and how important the nervous system is, and a clear, unimpeded nervous system is crucial for optimum health. So I'm optimistic. I think that chiropractors are going to get busy, especially if they keep improving their application of chiropractic, and they give that exceptional patient care and keep aiming for that. I think every baby is going to get adjusted in the future soon after they're born. All three of mine were born at home, and I adjusted them immediately, and we've never spent any significant amount of money on our health care. We have health insurance, never really used it. We've used chiropractic care and healthy eating and exercise and prayer. And my children are all extremely healthy. They're all teenagers now. In fact, 2 of them are starting college. That's a perfect example right there. So, boy, the future is bright for chiropractic. And I think if we can just keep focusing on the chiropractic principle and showing people and explaining to that what that is in creative and in innovative ways, I think they're going to keep coming to us more and more.
I gotta tell you, that sounds like a wonderful future, and I hope it does turn out like that. That's a world I'd like to live in.
Yeah, most definitely. And there's so many clever ways to use marketing. You know, you guys are involved in a lot of good ways with the videos, for example. I was one day in my practice looking for another thing to add to my marketing, and I was paging through some old chiropractic books. I think it was one of BJ's green books, and I saw this picture, I think from the 1920s. BJ had a giant spine made out of plaster. He had students that would carry each vertebrae, 24 segments down Brady Street during the parade or during the homecoming or Lyceum or maybe all of that. And I saw that picture and I thought, boy, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I got to work and I made a giant spine of my own, because at that time Palmer was renting theirs, but it was difficult to get. There was a waiting list. It was expensive, and you needed a big truck to haul it because they were solid vertebrae. So I was innovative also, and I applied my talent and I made these vertebrae, and now I even sell the giant spine parade and event costume. And boy, that did a lot for my practice. And just think how important a parade is. Almost every community has one or more parades, and there you have hundreds, if not thousands, of enthusiastic people with their families, and you can present your office in a fun and innovative way. Boy, that's a real head turner. I like to say the giant spine and parade costume. Honestly, I think we got 100 new patients the first time that we did it, and many dozens more year after year that we used that. We handed out coupons, I believe, one year for a complimentary exam. We handed out bent pens with our name on them. We handed out refrigerator magnets, jar openers. We let people know where we are and what we're doing, and it was just tremendous. We even got our picture and story on the front page of our newspaper one year because it gets so much attention. So that's one of the marketing ways that somebody might consider if they haven't done it already. Get something in your community's parade, please.
That actually leads right into our next question. Other than carrying giant vertebrae down the street in parades, that's a first for me. What are some other key marketing strategies that you couldn't do without, be it social or traditional or what have you?
Well, when I was in practice, which I had to sell in, it was 2009 because I hurt my hands. I sold my practice to one of my associates. Social media didn't exist. We were just starting to hear about it back then. And I remember starting to look on Facebook and such back then before I sold my practice. But I think social media obviously is very important now for every chiropractor. I see the benefits and I see what chiropractors are are doing with that, and it's just tremendous. So I do a little consulting for chiropractors, and I advise them all to be making videos and to be on Facebook and to be doing live videos on Facebook. That's very important now. I did a lot of lectures in my office. That was one of the big practice building methods that I had. I always had at least one lecture in my office a week, and it was called Chiropractic Orientation Class. It was about 20 minutes. I would alternate it. One week I'd have one in the morning, one week I'd have one in the evening, so that I could be accessible to almost everybody. And I made that part of my recommendations for everybody. When I sat down during my report of findings and I told them, what they needed as far as the schedule of care to go, I would include, you have to come to this class, and we suggest you bring one of your significant others so that they can be supportive and learn what you're getting here. And that was a big practice builder, the chiropractic orientation class. I also did a symptom lecture once a week, open to the community. Headaches, migraines, low back pain, leg pain, sciatica, fibromyalgia is a big one. And obviously we chiropractors in reality don't treat specific symptoms, but I did use that to attract people. And then I hit them with the real story about what chiropractic really is. So giving lectures was a big practice boost for my practice, and I advise chiropractors to do that also. And it doesn't cost much, of course. A little bit of your time and a couple of flyers and some time promoting it now on social media, and that really works well to this day for doctors.
You've made it to Chiro Hustle. Sit back and learn from the greatest influencers in the profession. This episode is brought to you by Clothes for Chiro, Chiro Sushi, Black Diamond Club, Pure Chiro Notes, MoveWell University, the Chiro Dex app, and Alok Trivedi. Let's hustle. Dr. Tom, listening to you talk just makes me smile. And the whole time I've been doing the interview, I think I've smiled more just listening to your stories than I have on any other interview on the Chiro Hustle podcast. I absolutely love your candor with your explanations of how you've done things in the past, how you manage things in your practice. And it really seems to me that you were actually you lived the chiropractic lifestyle a lot like Gonstead did. You lived to be a chiropractor, and you didn't take it on because of the trappings of success that it would provide you.
Yeah, that's pretty much true. Once again, if we go back to that mantra, man plants, God grants. I just got to work using my talents and got excited, involved with something that was exciting to me, and the rewards came in unbelievable ways. The income was great. I had plenty of time off to travel. I've traveled the world. I've got numerous properties, vacation homes. I've been blessed in so many ways. And it hasn't been by focusing on making money. It's been focusing on providing good service to people, finding my talents and putting them to use, learning about chiropractic and sharing that with other people. And the benefits have just rained down upon me in such a way. I'm getting some tears in my eyes right now. It's been just great. And I hope that I can follow more in Gonstead's footsteps. I said he was fearless about taking on tough cases, but he was fearless in other ways. He built that 29,000 square foot building where his office is now. You mentioned he built that hotel next door. He built the landing strip, and these were all during the darkest decades of chiropractic. We have blueprints that we found where he was even planning to double the size of that clinic when he was 72 years old. And he was getting ready to build a big complex in the Cayman Islands where he could teach patients, teach chiropractors. It was a retreat center that he was going to build down there. Just a fearless guy, and I hope I can be fearless like that also in the second half of my life.
So, what's your favorite app or technology to keep you engaged with your audience?
I use Facebook a lot. I've written 4 books. One of them is for chiropractors. It's called Reclaim the Joy of Practice. And there's 3 other books for the general public about holistic health. My main one is called Whole Health Healing. Lots of chiropractic in there. And I've used Facebook. I've made videos on YouTube, and I've posted them on Facebook. I've ran some Facebook ads, and I'm just gearing up to do even more of that. So it's been a wonderful way to promote my products. The Giant Spine and Parade costume, that's on Facebook also. You can search for that and you'll find it. So that's my main medium is Facebook.
So I know you probably have a storied library of content that you like to read, but is there anything current that you're like reading, or any type of blogs or anything of that nature that that keeps your mind working?
Well, once again, going back to Gonstead, I guess I'm kind of hooked on it. There's a whole bunch of videos of Gonstead on YouTube that various doctors have posted. One of the things he did, clever man, once again, is early in his teaching career, he hired a videographer. And they have hundreds of hours of videos of Gonstead teaching the method. And a lot of those are posted on Facebook. And at the clinic, we have a DVD that we provide for chiropractors who want to learn more in exchange for a donation. That can be found on our GoFundMe site called Gonstead Guardians. And I keep watching those Gonstead videos. I keep getting more and more out of those all the time. Some of them are a little bit poor quality because back then in the 1960s, the video wasn't what it was today. And unfortunately, that videographer, I think, was just a local farmer, from what I can ascertain. So the pictures and the filming is a bit jumpy. But once again, you can get a lot out of that. So I encourage everybody, look up Gonstead videos on YouTube.
That's cool. You know, early on in my path of learning about chiropractic, Clarence was one of the first people that really stood out to me. And when we had our conversation a week back, a lot of things like welled up for me, because it was listening to Clarence talk, and it was listening to BJ talk, and it was listening to Sid talk, and I was listening to some of these greats talk about chiropractic that really made me want to get all in 100% with the chiropractic profession, and not only, you know, be a lay person, which we call, you know, people that aren't chiropractors that, you know, help people through the chiropractic profession, but being a lay person that became an educated person that started realizing that there were some greats in this chiropractic world. And I knew that Gonstead was one of them, because no matter where I went to Mexico, and I heard Mexican chiropractic students saying that they practice Gonstead. I went to France. I heard young French chiropractors talk about they practice the Gonstead technique. You know, we went to down to Barcelona. I heard, you know, young Spanish chiropractors say that they were practicing the Gonstead technique. So when I first got introduced to Clarence Gonstead, I knew that there was something magnetic about what he was doing for the chiropractic profession. And like you said, you touched on all the Palmers, and I touched on you know, Sid. Did you have any other like mentors or like leaders that you followed besides Gonstead and the Palmers?
Oh yes, I loved listening to Dr. Sid also. I went to Dynamic Essentials, got a lot out of that. And Parker seminars, I went to that, learned tremendous numbers of things there. And there's a local practice management group here in Wisconsin, Petty, Michael and Associates. Two guys that are not chiropractors, but they just love chiropractic and they focus on helping chiropractors. Dave, Michael, and Ed Petty got tremendous insight and help for my practice from those guys also. So you bet, I'm always on the lookout for others that can be of help to me and my mission and my purpose. And you're talking about Gonstead around the world. Isn't that so amazing? You know, doctors talk about their drawing area. Maybe it's 5 miles or 20 miles, or if it's 50 miles if they're out in a small town. Gonstead's drawing area, planet Earth. I mean, he just drew from everywhere. We bumped into a person the other day who came from New Zealand to get treated by Dr. Gonstead. And we met another guy recently, a neurologist from France, who came and stayed for a couple of weeks to get adjustments from Dr. Gonstead before he got fixed up and went home. So there's a map that we show in the clinic. I think they had it up in the 1970s in the waiting room, and they let patients put a pin in the map wherever they came from. And that map still exists. We show that to people when they take a tour, and they had to stop because there was no more room to put pins in many places. And the pins are from all 4 corners of the globe on that world map.
That's pretty amazing. We would like to see that if you could send us a picture of it.
Absolutely, yes. And please, you or anybody, come up to the Gonstead Clinic. It's looking better than ever. We're making tremendous progress there with restoring the building and preserving it. We just hired another associate there. The practice is growing, and it's just a very motivating place to come. One of the Japanese visitors that had taken the tour sent me a message, a Facebook message, and he says something like, I was really getting kind of depressed about practicing chiropractic. I was struggling, and now I feel like a new chiropractor again. That's what he said. And he says he went back to Japan with a new sense of urgency to promote and to build his practice again. And that is so wonderful.
Yeah, that's great. Jim and I are definitely going to have to plan a trip out there sometime soon.
Bring your video cameras.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I know that last time we talked as well, you mentioned to me that there's a few chiropractors practicing at the Gonstead Clinic.
Yes, we have 4 chiropractors there currently. 2 of the guys originally worked with Gonstead, Dr. Doug Cox and Dr. Ray Clinton. They're still there going strong after some 40 or 50 years. I lose track. Still seeing patients. And then we've got 2 younger guys. So 4 total.
That's really cool to hear. And, just getting the off the podcast chat with you last week was really cool as well. And it was cool that we could turn around so quickly and get you as a guest on the podcast as well.
I'm really happy to be here. I see what you guys are up to, and it looks so tremendous for the chiropractic profession. It's guys like you together with chiropractors that are on purpose and providing that exceptional patient care. We're going to make chiropractic the best thing in healing and healthcare that the world has.
Well, we're very blessed and honored to have you on the show today. But unfortunately, we're getting towards the end of our episode. Is there anything that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to ask you?
No, I think that pretty much covers it. There's more stories I have, but we'll save them for another time.
All right. Well, this is where we let our guests give out any websites or web links or any resources where people can find you better.
Very good. Yes. For the Gonstead restoration, people can go to gofundme.com/Gonstead Guardians. There's pictures there. There's a story of what we're up to. There's opportunities to donate in various ways. On Facebook, you can look up Gonstead Guardians. You'll see more current postings there. For my books and other products that I have, the Giant Spine Parade and event costume, I have a website for chiropractors. It's called reclaimthejoy.com. reclaimthejoy.com. And lastly, if anybody wants to come to the Gonstead Clinic, you're more than welcome. Just look up Chiropractor Mount Horeb and call the clinic. And the staff or myself would be happy to take you on a tour at any time.
All right. Well, that just about wraps up our episode for today. I really thank you for being on the show. This has been a really great episode, I think, and you shared some really amazing stories.
Thanks for having me. I enjoyed it. And you guys keep up the good work.
Yeah, Dr. Tom, thank you, and enjoy the rest of your day. And it is a privilege to have you on the podcast. And anything we can do to help you down the line, just stay with us and let us know how we can help.
Very good. Thank you.
All right. You enjoy the rest of your day, sir.
You too. Bye-bye.
See you, Doc.
Take care.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to Chiro Hustle. Don't forget to subscribe and check back next week to continue hustling.